Hi, everybody. Adam Savage in my cave with a show and tell. Yeah, this is a show and tell that probably should have been a one-day build, but I never got around to filming it while it was happening. It's clear that I love objects and the stories that they tell. I love making them and helping them tell their stories. And sometimes I find objects that are so beautiful, I want to build something for them to assist them in telling their story. So I'm a collector of old esoteric technology. I love Curta computers, early digital calculators, all sorts of antique tools. And there's a piece of sound equipment that was on my radar from way back when. If you cast your mind back to an early Francis Ford Coppola film called The Conversation, directed by Coppola, sound design famously by the incredible director and sound designer Walter Murch. And in this, Gene Hackman plays a spy named Harry Call. And at one point in the film, we see a miniature reel-to-reel tape deck. It's tiny, absolutely tiny. And a few years ago, I wrote a column for Wired magazine, and it was I wrote it for a year. It was about whatever I kind of wanted to talk about. They were awesome. And so I would talk about life lessons, and every now and then I would bring up something that I'd always coveted. And at one point I wrote an article on the Curta mechanical computer and promptly watched the value of Curta computers bump up perceptibly on eBay because I had talked about them. They don't seem to have gone down either. I'm not saying I'm the reason they went up, but, prices are always going up. For reference, when I was first super obsessed with space stuff 20 years ago, you could buy a pair of Russian space gloves for less than $1,000, and now you'd be hard pressed to find a pair for less than $6,000 or $7,000. The reason I'm telling all of this is because one of the things I wrote about in the Wired article was this reel-to-reel tape deck built by Nagra. Nagra are the makers. They're a Swiss, I think they're a Swiss company. I could be wrong. I didn't do my Nagra research, but every film, Nagra is the de facto film sound deck when I was coming up in the film industry. Every soundo had one. It was this big deck like this, and there were reel-to-reels, and they had crystal sync and all of this impressive stuff. And you could still buy them, and there are still people that use them all the time. But what you might not realize is that Nagra also made this miniature reel-to-reel, and they made it for the CIA. Yeah. And so when I wrote this article for Wired, I was like, I've always considered the Nagra, it's officially called the Nagra Kudelski. There was an SN, an SNS, an SNST, depending on whether they were stereo or not. There were many models. But when I wrote this article, I realized, oh, shit, maybe I should buy one now. And I did. I actually bought one used, and I had it fixed by a local sound genius. And it is one of my favorite objects. And in fact, over the following years, I purchased more Nagra spy equipment. And this is the case that I built to house it. Yeah, it was all sitting on a shelf for the longest time. When I asked Sean Charlesworth to do some laser etching, I had this brushed metal acrylic with a black center. And Sean took the Nagra logo that I sent him and the size and etched it. And that was the sign. And that was the first piece I had of the case. And then I built this case. I built it out of plywood. Very same technique as I used to build the Blade Runner pistol case. This is paper with a leatherette surface on it, covering a plywood box with brass corners. Let's take a look inside, shall we? So, here is the magnificent beast that is the Nagra Kudelski reel-to-reel. This thing is like a piece of jewelry. I can't even tell you how delicious it feels to hold in your hand. It's not powered up because I don't have batteries in it. I don't keep batteries in it. But this is a masterpiece of engineering. Look at that. Look at how gorgeous it is. The Russians actually made a copy of this that is almost interchangeably identical. There is no rewind on this. This is my favorite part. There's no motorized rewind. It only goes in one direction. So when you want to rewind, you push, let's see, that's for running. This is for rewind. And you push, let's see, you pull up this handle and you push this button and that's how you rewind. Right? Is that crazy? You would sit there and hand rewind. Yeah, so you can see why I was obsessed with this. So slowly, over the years, I gathered up the objects that it would have been coupled with. So I have, in addition to the main reel-to-reel unit, I have a playback machine. Look at this. Again, I picked this up for a pretty good deal because it didn't work and it turned out to be a bad wire in the battery compartment, which I fixed. I did a lot of restoration on this, cleaning and polishing this clear battery case. Look at that, dude. Okay, here's something I want to point out about the Swiss. This is actually a playback unit for an SNST, a stereo one of these reel-to-reels. And this was the plug that fit into it with two monos. And yeah, these two pulleys are simply for staging the wire so that it has somewhere to go. Oh my God, so awesome. I also picked up, the last item I bought was this one. And this might have been the most expensive. I actually accidentally hit the buy it now button on this, or how did I do this? It's not that I think I committed to buying this by accident. And then I realized, screw it. I'm never going to see one for this price again. I paid a lot of money for it. It is a balanced and adjustable microphone input. Check out. That's the interface. That's the plug. That goes in to there. Yeah, right? So this is all super proprietary. And then, this has two different microphones. It's got the cardioid and it's got the general and the directional. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All of this equipment works currently. I've even got some extra cables, an XLR adapter. This is a separate lavalier microphone. Yeah, it turns out Sean Charlesworth is also obsessed with Nagra hardware. And then I worked really hard to find a pair of headphones that I thought felt period correct to my Nagra. And I found this beautiful pair of Pioneer SEL40s. Look at how gorgeous these are. I've never done any restoration on these. This is exactly how they came out of the box when I bought them on eBay. But I feel like they complete the picture. I even went so far as to hit all of the felt in here with sandpaper to make it pilly. And yeah, I made a special AA battery holder here that is simply, it's just a block of resin that I machined to have two edges so that it sat in this box. There's nothing hidden under there. And holds all the batteries I need to keep this running. And that helps make sure I don't actually leave the batteries in it because there's always a place for them to go. I also have, this is a little stand for it that Sean Charlesworth designed. Yeah, he's awesome. And then these are some of the original reels. These are so expensive now. I think these are showing up on eBay. One of these is a metal, and one of them is a plastic reel. These are showing up on eBay for like $50 to $100 a piece. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, crazy. Like I said, I probably should have done this as a one-day build, and yet at the point at which I decided to do it, I don't know. Look, I don't film everything. That's just the way it is. I know, and I've covered a lot this year, but I don't film everything. I take some builds to myself. There's some times I just want to not think about telling the story about a build, and I just want to be part of the story of the build. So yeah, this is the proper case for a magnificent Nagra Kudelski spy recorder. Oh, right. Here's what you should know. This is the coolest part about this. Nagra designed these reel-to-reels in conjunction with the CIA. The CIA had things that they wanted. We wanted to be small. We wanted to be quiet. We wanted to be battery efficient. We wanted to be sound activated. And Nagra was adding all of these features. And each time they would develop a new version of the Nagra, the CIA, all of this research has been gleaned online, and so I may be wrong about giant chunks of it, but from what I came to understand is that the CIA would, each time they came up with a new design for the Nagra reel-to-reel, they would allow Nagra to sell last year's model to the public. So the very first one I think was the SN, and then there was the SNS, which I think this one is, and then there's the SNST, which is really hard to find and super expensive. That's the stereo version of this. And so whatever you were used in the 70s, you could buy this. But what you later learned, when you learned about the history of this, is that the CIA always had one that was one notch better. Now there's one super, they ended up actually making a cassette. One of the last versions of this was a little cassette. And I don't think I've ever come across one of the recording units for those cassettes, but the playback units show up on eBay all the time, and they're like in the thousands and thousands of dollars. My friend Fitz tries to collect everything that ever came on a cassette, and he didn't know about those. He was very delighted to find out about them. But apparently one of the versions of this that Nagra designed for the CIA used a syncing crystal in it that was tuned to 60 hertz, or 50 hertz if you were in Europe. It was tuned to the same hertz of wherever it was so that it wouldn't be found in a bug sweep. So I guess a bug sweeper looks for certain signatures, and it was replicating the same kind of signature just like a normal piece of equipment plugged into the wall would have. Yeah. I love that stuff. Imagine, like, someone would have to take one of these, make it, put batteries in it, wrap it in a book or something with a microphone and sound activated, and then somehow sneak back into that room days, hours, weeks later and recover the recording. I can't even imagine how stressful it must be to be any kind of a spy. But this is my fantasy spy equipment distribution case. And while I did not film the construction of it, I'm delighted to share it with you today. Thank you guys for joining me for this show and tell. And if you have any pieces of this equipment lying around that you'd like to just put into my collection, I'd be delighted to receive it. And I will thank you publicly for it. Yeah, just throwing that out there. Dream on. Thank you guys for joining me for this show and tell. I will see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching that entire video. If you would like to support Tested even further, well, I'm here to tell you that you could become a member. If you follow the links below, you'll see there are several tiers of membership depending on how much you'd like to pay and how much access you would like to me and the Tested team. And membership comes, as always, with some excellent benefits, including questions that I'll answer in live streams. The questions have been so amazing, and exclusive videos and exclusive content. Follow the links below, and we will see you next time.